Hello and welcome to the Week 9 edition of High School Roundup here on CUTV. This week we'll break down the last regular season in high school football for the Whitfield in the 2015 season. Can't believe I'm saying that. This season's gone by really quick, and my name is Matt Hagee, and I will be the host today, and I'm joined by my analysts, Zach Prosba and Anthony D'Agostino. Guys, it's playoff time in the Whitfield, and nothing really more exciting than that.
No, it's very exciting. I know you and I, Matt, were listening last night when the brackets were released, and we spent a couple hours talking about all the different matchups, and it's just an exciting time trying to pick out who's going to be the champions of each classification, and then later on move into the PIAA playoffs.
And we said before it's playoff time, but that last week of football where it really determined who was making the playoffs was probably one of the better weeks of football that we've seen, and some pretty interesting scores as well that transitioned into teams making the playoffs and teams who didn't make the playoffs that wish they did.
It's definitely time we like to call November Madness in the state of Pennsylvania and in the western side of Pennsylvania. So we will take a look at each classification and the brackets that were just released yesterday. You best believe I was definitely listening. And for AAA, we will start with our South Union Township Game of the Week, as always, with our good friends down at Laurel Highlands. They needed a win to clinch the final spot in the Big Ten Conference, and they had to go against their rivals, their local Uniontown rivals, the Albert Gallatin Colonials. And Anthony, you have the highlights for us.
I do, and Laurel Highlands took on Albert Gallatin at Laurel Highlands for their senior night, and we see here Hunter Moody gets hit hard by Jimmy Pierce, and the ball comes out, and Laurel Highlands picks it up by Chad Petrush for the touchdown. Then Jimmy Pierce takes it, looking to pass, goes 5 yards to Christian Jones for the end zone. Now Albert Gallatin looking to pass is Hunter Moody, 30 yards down the field to Luke Dice. What a catch for Luke Dice. And then Jimmy Pierce takes it, hands it off to Jarvis Cruz for the 5-yard run. Albert Gallatin takes it now, is looking to pass deep down the field to wide open Devin Carney, which is a 68-yard pass, which sets up a touchdown a few plays later. Then Laurel Highlands, Jimmy Pierce looking to pass to Jimmy Pierce, bounces around like a pinball and comes out and scores a touchdown for a 53-yard touchdown reception. And then Albert Gallatin, Hunter Moody looking to pass, scrambling. Going to take it himself into the end zone for the 4-yard run. Now look at this 2-point conversion. A little shovel pass there from Joseph Dahlbach to Damon Tolbert for the 2 points. Now it's the third quarter. Jimmy Pierce to Chad Livingston again, breaking tackles. Jimmy Pierce again, this time again to Chad Livingston, just gets over both of the defenders for the touchdown. Fourth quarter, Laurel Highlands, Christian Jones taking it in himself, 13 yards. Albert Gallatin, Devin Carney goes to the outside, breaking a few tackles. He's got room to run. He misses one tackle there. And he gets to the 40-yard line. He's got plenty of green space, cuts it back to the outside, and he's going all the way for the 83-yard touchdown run. Then gives it off to B.J. Savini for the 8-yard touchdown run, and that's going to be your final score. Laurel Highlands 60, Albert Gallatin 28, and that was the most points Albert Gallatin scored all season, so pretty good. Some really nice plays we saw there, and with that win, as we said before, Laurel Highlands clinched that last playoff spot.
For the second straight year, the Laurel Highlands Mustangs are in the playoffs, a great story. And they also snap a 3-game losing streak as well to get a big win over their winless rival. So we'll take a look at how the rest of the Big Ten Conference fared this week. Bell Vernon finishing their first perfect season since 2000, 54-0 over Elizabeth Ford. And probably one of the hottest teams in the Whitfield right now, Thomas Jefferson, 35-0 over West Mifflin. Zach, I'm pretty sure if I touch any one of those Thomas Jefferson players on the shoulder, I would get burned. They are hot right now.
Yeah, and tell you what, you'll see in a second where exactly they were seeded for the playoffs. It may not be favorable in the second round, but if they get past that, they have a very good shot of even making it to Heinz Field. Thomas Jefferson, ever since they got their quarterback back from injury after they started 0-2, they have not lost. They are definitely on a run that could see them extend far into the playoffs.
They definitely are, and now a couple of straight wins over West Mifflin as well. And the rest of the Big Ten Conference, York getting the win over Uniontown 21-19, and the Trinity Hillers so close to knocking out Ringgold and making the playoffs 16-10, but Ringgold rallies. Trinity misses the playoffs, Anthony, but still great effort out of the Hillers.
It really is. They really had a magical season this year, and But kudos to Ringgold. They rallied from 10-0 down, and they scored on a 3-yard run by Shakar Berry and then a 13-yard pass from George Martin. So this Ringgold team beat Trinity. I think it was a huge win for them and a heartbreaking loss for the Trinity Hillers.
And now we'll take a look at the first brackets here. We'll start in AAA. Laurel Highlands for the second straight season gets Central Valley, the defending Whitfield AAA champions that made it to the state final last year. Tough draw for the Mustangs. You see a good 8-9 matchup, Montour and Hampton. Mars versus Newcastle, and then Ringgold getting Ambridge. So on this side of the bracket right there, Zach, what game are you looking at?
I'm going to look at Ringgold and Ambridge because that 12-5, you look at the NCAA basketball tournament, 12-5 is always one of the huge upsets. Ringgold, it seems like somehow they've kind of relaxed a little bit the last few weeks. Ever since they lost to Bell Vernon. Their offense hasn't been the same. Their defense has been good, but something's not right on offense. If that continues into the playoffs, they could get upset. I expect Ringgold to win that game and even move past Mars or Newcastle, but you have to watch out for that upset there.
Oh, definitely. And we'll take a look now at the right side of the AAA bracket. You see Bell Vernon not getting the 1 seed. They draw a tough team in Chartiers Valley, the 2-15 matchup. Here's a great matchup. Franklin Regional, West Mifflin, and then West Allegheny against Hollidaysburg. Hollidaysburg's had a great season. And then you see Thomas Jefferson at the bottom there with the newly formed Armstrong High School. That was Ford City and Kintanig mixed together. So, Anthony, what matchup are you looking at here?
Well, that Franklin Regional West Mifflin game is really big for West Mifflin. They just lost to Thomas Jefferson last week. So they're really looking to keep their playoffs alive against this really good Franklin Regional team. And I think West Mifflin has a chance, but it'd be a big upset if they do win.
And a quick note about that West Allegheny Hollidaysburg game. You would expect West Allegheny to win, and if Hollidaysburg happens to fall, that would be their last game in the Whitfield as they're leaving the Whitfield after this season.
They're heading back to District 6, if I believe that's correct.
I think so.
Because it makes, I've been driving the state
geographical
college
sense
for how many weeks now, and I always see Hollidaysburg. I was like, dang, these guys have to go far when they come out for a couple of these teams. They played Bell Vernon last year. We had them on a game of the week, but if Thomas Jefferson wins, West Allegheny looms in that corner. I saw that game last year in West Day. They beat Thomas Jefferson pretty good. So we'll take a look now at the Quad A scores for the last week of the season, week 9. Connellsville ending Altoona's season. All Altoona needed to do was win, and they were in. But Connellsville knocks off Altoona 29-21. Plum beats Latrobe 42-7. But, Zach, for Altoona, that's a nightmare that happened.
All you had to do was win, and you're in. And you failed to live up to the task against a Connellsville team that honestly was not that impressive this year. This is, I think, their first or second win. I think it was their second win. And we saw Connellsville when they played Penn Trafford, which really isn't fair judgment to see them.
Right.
But Connellsville, they've done this a couple years now where they've beaten Altoona and ruined Altoona's season and prevented them from getting to the playoffs.
And now we're looking along in the rest of the Foothills Conference to see McKeesport. 62-0, big win over there for Kiski. And then Penn Trafford finishing a perfect season of themselves and the number 1 seed out of the Foothills Conference. 38-14 for Penn Trafford. Penn Trafford looks great. But Anthony, this McKeesport's rushing offense in this game was sick.
Yeah, and to be honest, McKeesport's for real this year. Look out for them in the playoffs. Carlinos AC rushed for 2 apiece, and McKeesport had 426 yards in total offense. So really huge offensive stand for this McKeesport area school. And Kiski didn't look terrible, during the regular season. So to see McKeesport really put up a 62-point shutout win over Kiski is pretty impressive.
Oh, it really is. And McKeesport once again laying in the wake of Penn Trafford. But we'll take a look at the Quad A bracket. Right? Actually, excuse me, I'm sorry. Non-conference game. Hempfield, the team that does get the wild card spot thanks to Altoona losing to Connellsville. So I believe Hempfield's probably going to give Connellsville a nice Christmas card this year.
They needed to win and get it, and they still didn't win either.
But they got some help because Peters Township lost and Shaler lost. So Hempfield needs to send some gift cards out to a lot of the schools. But congratulations to Fox Chapel with their first win of the season.
Yeah.
So good for them, good for the Foxes. Now we'll take a look at the Quad A bracket right here. And you see Hempfield's reward, Woodland Hills, the number 1 ranked team in the Whitfield and the state. And Kiski, they get Bethel Park. Great 8-9 matchup right there. Bethel Park playing good football. Norwin gets North Allegheny. Tough draw for them. And here's a great matchup between former state champions Pittsburgh Central Catholic and Upper St. Clair. I have a typo right there. It's not Upper St. Clair. But, Zach, right here, which game are you looking at?
Kiski Bethel Park. Anthony, you were correct in saying that Kiski was impressive all season long. And McKeesport, I think, was just dominating that game that we saw. Kiski could really give BP a run. I would expect Bethel Park to be the favorite because they are at home, and we've been to Bethel Park Stadium before, and it's a nice environment. But Kiski has proven that they can beat some of the top teams. And Kiski, they could pull a mild upset here in the first round.
And it's definitely could have a chance there. Kiski, good defense as well, and a good rushing attack. Now we'll take a look at the right side here. Penn Trafford gets North Hills. McKeesport gets Seneca Valley, a decent 7-10 matchup. Pine Richland, the defending Quad A champions, and also state finalist, state runner-up, getting Penn Hills. And here's a decent matchup right here. Mount Lebanon and Plum. Anthony, is that the game you're looking at? Mount Lebanon and Plum, that's going to be a good game.
Actually, you read my mind.
Perfect.
That was exactly the one I was going to look at because, we've been looking at Plum all season. They've had their ups, they've had their downs. But I think they have this chance to pull out this victory against this solid number 16 Mount Lebanon. And if they would win, that'd be a huge upset for Mount Lebanon.
And one thing, looking at this side of the bracket, McKeesport, you have to be aware, if they win, they likely get Penn Trafford again. Don't look ahead, though, because Seneca Valley will come up and grab you and take you home in the first round.
And that Northern 8 conference is one of the best in the entire WPIAL that has, Seneca Valley's got to play with North Allegheny, Pine Richland, Pittsburgh Central Catholic. Battle tested right there. So McKeesport Tigers have to watch out and then look ahead. Possibly they could be getting their rivals that has been a thorn in their side for the past couple seasons, the Penn Trafford Warriors. So that will do it for Quad A and AAA. When we come back from commercial break, we have one more game to go over. Burgettstown and Brownsville. Burgettstown was looking another win-and-in scenario. Could Brownsville pull the upset? And then we'll also take a look at the AA scores and the brackets as well as single A. You're watching High School Roundup here on CUTV.
Complete news, entertainment, and sports coverage from around the area, region, and nation is found right here on CUTV News Center every Thursday at 5 p.m. with anchors Jennifer Germano, Zach Prosba, entertainment with Mike Mays, and sports with Matt Hagee. Follow us on YouTube, CUTV News Center, and on Twitter, CUTV_PA, for your complete rebroadcast of your Vulcan sports. News Center airs every Thursday at 5 p.m. on Armstrong and Atlantic Broadband.
And welcome back to High School Roundup here on CUTV. And we looked at AAA and the Quad A for the playoff brackets as well. But now we get to go through the lower classifications of AA and single A. But first, we have one more game to go over. It was our CUTV Game of the Week from Redstone Field in Brownsville as Burgettstown Blue Devils, looking for a playoff spot for the first time since 2009, took on the upstart Brownsville Falcons. And Zach, you have the highlights for us.
Yeah, and sadly, it was the last game you and I are ever going to call on CUTV for High School Football Game of the Week, Matt. But, man, was it a good one with playoff implications. We start with the highlights here from Redstone Field in Republic. Ryan Ryder misses a field goal on the opening drive, hooks it wide left. So Burgettstown's still off the board. Now, Trayvon Brown, after a big pass completion to Zach Herman for the Falcons, Brown is upended and fumbles the ball before he hits the ground. The Blue Devils recover that fumble. Going into the second quarter now, Marcellus Grooms fumbles the ball trying to do an option play. The option did not work all night for Brownsville, and that leads to a Brad McLaughlin 24-yard touchdown run after McLaughlin came out because of a possible injury, maybe just wind knocked out of him. His first play back, he gets into the end zone for the touchdown, make it 7-0 at halftime. Now we go all the way to the fourth quarter. Nothing really happened in the third. McLaughlin, a wide open Ryan Lounder for 47 yards after corner Tyrese Lewis fell down. That sets up this Ryan Ryder field goal. Very close to missing. It did hook in, though, from 26 out. And then Brownsville, their last chance, Trayvon Brown with a decent catch, but he stopped well short of a first down in their last drive with about 30 seconds left. And Burgettstown, congratulations to them. They get their playoffs for the first time since 2009, and we'll see in a second who they draw in the first round. But Burgettstown, what a story after only one win the season before. And Brownsville, congratulations to them, 2 wins this year after not really having 2 wins in a season in a very long time either.
And you're right. And talking to some of the Burgettstown people, they're very nice people and very deserving of getting in the playoffs. So congratulations to them. And for Brownsville, I said this on the broadcast, 1 or 2 years, I think the Brownsville Falcons are going to have a winning season. So now let's take a look at the rest of the Interstate Conference scores first. Mount Pleasant beating their local rival Southmoreland 50-3, and Derry, they needed Burgettstown to lose. They get the win 26-0 over Waynesburg. But Zach, that's got to be frustrating for Derry there.
Yeah, and Derry had a good season. It's just they let Burgettstown come back in the game that they played them in a couple weeks ago. If Derry had won that game, they would have clinched a playoff spot right then and there. But just a good effort against Waynesburg, but just Cinderella was not having her sparkly slipper in Derry that night. It was Burgettstown.
It definitely was, and now we'll take a look at the other game in the Interstate Conference. It was the battle for Washington County. Wash High Prexies all over McGuffey 42-7. Anthony, this Wash High team is stacked.
They really are, and we saw them play against Mount Pleasant on our live PCN game, and they looked for real then. And when they played against McGuffey, they win 42-7. Jordan West rushed for 306 yards and got 5 touchdowns on 12 carries. So just a huge game for this Washington team.
And they're just going to continue to move forward and look to make it back to Heinz Field for the first time since 2012. And we'll take a look. There was, for the Whitfield AA playoffs here, Burgettstown, their reward, the 2-time defending state champion South Fayette Lions, led by Hunter Hayes. And then Mount Pleasant, here's a good game right here. Mount Pleasant and Beaver in the 8-9 matchup. And then Beaver Falls and Apollo Ridge 4-13, another good matchup. And Steel Valley and New Brighton 5-12 matchup. So, Zach, what game are you looking forward to here?
I'm looking at Steel Valley, New Brighton. I know we have a Steel Valley grad on our crew, Mr. Stephen Ruffing. And Steel Valley's had a very good season. They've gone down to some very good teams. If they make it past New Brighton, they would likely get Beaver Falls. It could be a good matchup. You know, a lot of people are going to pick Beaver Falls in that game just because of the name recognition, but Steel Valley is a good team.
No, they definitely are. They have a great running back as well in Dwayne Murray. So now we'll take a look at the other side of AA here. Aliquippa gets Keystone Oaks in the first round. A decent matchup for here. Highlands and Seton LaSalle have the same conference as Steel Valley. And Wash High, they get a good Deer Lakes team that surprised a lot of people this season. And then the bottom, McGuffey gets Freeport, who had a big winning streak this season. So, Anthony, what game are you looking forward to here?
Well, I think Freeport McGuffey is the one I'm going to look at. McGuffey's coming off this big loss against Washington. They're looking to keep their playoffs alive, and they're at Freeport, so it's going to be a tough matchup between these two teams. But I think McGuffey has got a good shot.
And now we'll take a look at the Tri-County South in the Black and Blue Bowl. We all went with Jeff Morgan. We all thought Jeff Morgan was going to win, but another Morgan led the way for Carmichael's. David Morgan, back from injury, 28-0. Carmichael's gets in the playoffs. And Avella, second win of the season over West Green, 14-0. But Zach, Carmichael's proven us all wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to have to send a card that says my apologies to the Carmichael's Mighty Mikes. I honestly picked JM because we thought David Morgan was not going to play after he got injured when we covered that game the week before. But he came back and he led this team to a big shutout victory over the Rockets. And Carmichael's, good to see them back in the playoffs. They always were a power. And a couple of years ago when I first started high school roundup, they actually finished, I think, second or third in the conference. So they've dropped a little bit, but good to see them back in the playoffs.
Oh, definitely it is. And then Jeff Morgan ended their season last year. And then Frazier gets their 6th shutout of the season over Cal High School, 50-0. And the other game of the week in the Tri-County South. Look at this score. Beth Center 52 over Bentworth 40. So this game, we were split decision here thinking of this game. Bentworth, this was kind of like a show-me game to compete with the big boys. They still played pretty well, but Beth Center's rushing attack went crazy.
And it was led by none other than Anthony Welsh. Finished with 353 rushing yards and scored 3 consecutive touchdowns on the ground in the second half. And, you know, props to Bentworth. They put up 40 points against the strong Beth Center team. So I'm not sure if Beth Center's defense was kind of laxing a little bit, but just a huge win for Beth Center.
And a great season by Bentworth as well. As we'll take a look at the non-conference game here. Monessen, boy, man, they needed this win. 35-28 over Mapletown after the trying season Monessen's had. So good for the Greyhounds to end their season on a good note. For Mapletown, back to the drawing board for next season after high expectations this year. And the final Tri-County South standings here. You can see the 14, Fraser, Beth Center, Bentworth, and Carmichael's moving on to the playoffs. And now we'll take a look at the other side of Single A that we cover, the Eastern Conference here. Clareton finishing their season 58-0 over Leechburg, no surprise there. Big rivalry game here. Jeanette 49-35 over Greensburg Central Catholic. And Zach, this score is kind of deceptive because Jeanette was throttling the Centurions at halftime.
Yeah, GCC got a couple garbage time touchdowns. Don't let that score fool you to think GCC may be an early exit. I think they could definitely make some noise in the playoffs.
Now moving on the other side of the Eastern Conference. Here's a surprise. Springdale already locked in the playoffs, losing to Riverview 7-0, and then Wilkinsburg in their final game as a school of football, losing to Sarah Catholic after a good effort, 23-20. But Anthony, Riverview here, this is a surprise, or Springdale, they might have been looking ahead to the playoffs.
Well, that's exactly why I think Springdale lost. They kind of came into this game not really caring, I guess you could say. They put up a big stand against Riverview. The Riverview had to withstand all 4 quarters against Springdale, and finally they broke through. But Springdale was just looking too far ahead of the playoffs and missed this game.
And now moving along here, we take a look at the single A playoffs here. Carmichael's, their reward for beating Jeff Morgan is Clareton. Best center, best center gets Avonworth in a big 8-9 matchup. Fraser gets Southside Beaver, a rematch from last season. And Shenango, they get Springdale, and also, I believe, another rematch from last season. So, Zach, what game stands out to you here?
It has to be Fraser Southside Beaver. The Tri-County South has not won a playoff game as a conference in 5 years. That's going to change this year. The Fraser Commodores are a very dangerous team because of their defense, and their offense is very timely. They could even make it past the second round if they get a favorable matchup if Springdale happens to upset Shenango.
See if Fraser's defense can carry them into the playoffs. And now the other side of the single A bracket right here. Cardinal World North Catholic gets Union. Bishop Canevin gets Greensburg Central Catholic. That's a great matchup. Jeanette and Chartiers Houston. And Bentworth gets Neshannock. So, Anthony, what game stands out to you here?
Bishop Canevin and GCC. GCC coming off this loss last week. Again, looking to upset number 7 seed Bishop Canevin at Bishop Canevin. So don't know which side it's going to be. It's going to be a very tough matchup. Maybe only like a few points difference in this game.
And now that is it for all the brackets. That's all our bracketology we have. And now coming up next, this is our playoff pick'em. We selected a game from each conference and also the top 3 plays. Can anyone unseat Caleb Cox and Fraser? Find out next on High School Roundup here on CUTV.
Save preset 1 for Cal U's best music. More music in the car, more music in the door, more music everywhere. This is 91.9 WCAL Power 92. The home of the Vulcan Nation. Playing Cal U's best music. 91.9 WCAL. WCAL Power 92.
First published in the 1880s, the California Times is the oldest student media at California University. Circulating 3,000 issues weekly on campus and in the surrounding community, the Times' mission is to deliver fair and balanced news to the student population of California University. All students are welcome to be a part of the California Times. Our offices are located in the Natali Student Union. Keep up to date with the Times online at www.caltimes.org, Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.
And welcome back to High School Roundup here on CUTV as we see the pick'em standings here for the final ones of the regular season. If Trinity would have beat Ringgold, Zach and I would have been tied at the top here, but you see Anthony and Gary as well tied for third. And now we'll take a look at our pick'em, the games we selected for the playoffs here. Plum at Mount Lebanon. We're all going with Mount Lebanon except you, Anthony. You went with Plum. Why is that?
Well, I think Plum has, as I said before, they have their ups and downs all season. I think this is going to be their up. They're going to upset Mount Lebanon at Mount Lebanon.
We'll see what happens there. Plum, remember, they won in the first round last season. Now moving along here to the game we picked for AAA. Ambridge at Ringgold. We're all going with Ringgold. Now, we don't know a lot about Ambridge, but Ringgold, when it comes playoff time, they made a big run last year as well. And with Carberry, it's tough to go against them. Now moving along into the game we picked for AA. Beaver at Mount Pleasant. Zach, you were the only person that went with Beaver. Why is that?
Common denominator. Beaver beat Brownsville by 40 this year. Mount Pleasant beat Brownsville, I think, by like 30. So I'm going to go with Beaver being an out-of-conference foe. Mount Pleasant's not seen them. May only have a little bit of resources to maybe take that team on. I'm going to go Beaver in the mild upset in the first round.
And Mount Pleasant does have some experience playing teams from that Midwestern Conference, Aliquippa. So Beaver also playing Aliquippa as well. And now moving along into single A here. We're all going with Fraser just to end the Tri-County South streak of winless playoff games against Southside Beaver. Remember, Southside Beaver beat Fraser last season. And the final pick'em game for this week we have right here, Greensburg Central Catholic, Bishop Canevin. Gary's the only one going with Bishop Canevin. We're all going with GCC and getting the 10-7 upset right here. And Greensburg Central Catholic looks good with Pellis and LA Ross as well. Now, our final regular season top 3 plays here. We'll do top 3 plays for the playoffs here. But Anthony, we'll start with you at number 3.
All right, number 3, it's from the Laurel Highlands, Albert Gallatin. It's Joseph Dahlbach's fake field goal shovel pass to Damon Tolbert for the 2-point conversion.
Number 2, Zach.
And I mentioned him before when I was running down the highlights. Brad McLaughlin. This is the only score that Burgesstat needs to get back into the playoffs since 2009. And after coming out due to a small injury, good bravery getting that touchdown on that play right after he came out.
And the number 1 play for this week, we go back to Uniontown. Jimmy Pierce on his senior night to another senior, Chad Livingston, pinball wizard. Look at that play there by Chad Livingston. 1 of 3 touchdowns for the night, ending their Mustang career at home with a high note. But was it enough to knock out Fraser? No, it was not. Caleb Cox right here. It's going to be really tough to beat this monumental play. This is what won the Tri-County South for Fraser. This is what gave him the perfect season there to Damon Lovis for the touchdown. Last play of the half, one of the best plays we've seen in a while. And guys, it's going to be tough to unseat that. But for the playoffs, we're going to be going around to a couple different sites this week and get highlights from 3 different games plus the LH Central Valley game. But going around to these playoff games, great atmospheres as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's always a fun time to see the playoffs. And one thing I'll say is that you don't see a lot of upsets in the WPIAL playoffs. I think there's a chance that could change this year. We could see a lot of big teams go down.
It's because I'm here now. Yeah. Where I'm from in District 3, there's in the first round, there's usually some pretty big upsets that happen. So that's kind of when I started making my brackets. I looked at that and I went with some upsets. So maybe I'm bringing the upsets with me.
I definitely agree with that because I'm from the same area as well. So next week we'll have, like I said, Central Valley, Laurel Highlands. We also look to get highlights from Bell Vernon, Fraser, and Ringgold. And so stay tuned for that. 4 games to go over next week. So that will do it for this week of High School Roundup. Stay tuned for next week where we go over the first round of the WPIAL playoffs for Zach Prospa and Anthony D'Agostino. My name's Matt Hagee. Have a wonderful week. Go to a playoff game this Friday.